Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission for Tuesday, May 10th. I know we have some public comment. Can I just ask a question of our audience members? Are all three of you here to discuss the dog park? Yes? Should we pull it forward?
Yeah, I would say we would do a roll call and approval of
Okay,
minutes,
let's
and then
do
we
roll
can move into
call.
that.
We'll go into public comment. We'll let you say what you're here to express, and then we will have our dog park discussion first because you're here, and then we'll move on to the rest of our agenda. Greg coming? Greg might be coming, we're not sure. Okay. So I think we have a quorum, so we can go ahead and get started.
Perfect.
It's 6:05, so. Maggie, are you roll calling?
I can. So I've got Commissioner Baker, Boroff, Hester, Commissioner George and Keene are absent, and we're just waiting for Greg, so I think we're all set. And Chairman Waverly's here, so we're good.
Okay, then I will call the meeting to order. Okay, we will start with public comment. Did you have a chance to sign in the back? If you could please do so. And whoever wants to start, feel free. Ladies first. Lisa, I think you're up.
I am just coming to say thank you for all your work, and I'm also part of the new hours.
Is her mic on?
It should be.
It should be.
No, I'm just wondering, because it's being recorded, and it's being, so I just want to make sure that it didn't
No,
sound.
I'm just coming to say thank you very much for all your work, and we so appreciate the continuation of the dog park, and I am.
Reset it real quick.
Oh,
I thought it might not be on. I can hear my echo, but I couldn't hear yours, so I was,
scared a couple times.
You're gonna have to start over.
yeah.
Maybe I should introduce myself. That would be great. No. Oh, you got it. Oh, you got it.
And you do, that was my mistake. Please state your name and your address, yes, when you start. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that.
There we go. Excuse me. So thank you very much. Lisa Derazinski. I am a Hinsdale resident on Bowdoin, 236 South Bowdoin. The park is awesome. I have a new puppy, so I use it a lot more than I ever imagined that I would, and love those very early morning hours, so that I'm a part of the 6:15 crowd. And then would really like the earlier hours in the evening, because going to KLM, so I'm all supportive of that. This gentleman would like those hours longer. I'd be supportive of that as well, but the 6 o'clock in the early evening is, thank you very much. That's all I have to say. Yeah.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for taking the time.
My name is Bill Trader. I live at 118 East 6th Street. My complaint with the hours is the shortening of the evening time. I know we're trying to be kind to the neighbors, but cutting the winter time off at 7 o'clock is bad for people who work and get home at 6, want to have dinner, and then take their dogs out. So I'd like to see the hours in the winter extended from 4 to 8, just lengthen them an hour. I don't think 8 o'clock is onerous to any of the neighbors, except for maybe Kramer the dog, who's the loudest creature out there. Conversely, in the fall hours that are currently 6 to 9, I'd like to see that go 5 to 9. Because I think what we're trying to cater to is cross-country. My grandson's a JV cross-country runner. I was there for every meet last year. They are scheduled to begin at 4:30, end at 5:30, and they're out of there at 6. They don't start at 4:30. The visiting teams aren't there yet. So they start at 5, get at 6, end at 6, and they're still straggling around until 6:30. So if people are bringing dogs in at 6 o'clock on the day of a cross-country meet, there's going to be conflict. Conversely, the cross-country meets are only at most twice a week. So why shorten the hours for 2 events a week? Just put out a notice on the email or whatever saying the park is closed to dogs until 7 o'clock. Then there's no conflict. People have 2 hours for the dog, and the other 5 days of the week, they have 4 hours for the dogs. I don't think that's outrageous.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So ideally, what you're saying, in your proposal, the summertime hours would begin at 6 PM instead of the proposed 7 PM?
Well,
I
they,
believe
no,
now
it-
that
they started.
They start at 5. No, they believe, well,
Sorry.
I think they're currently
They're going-
7.
The
They're
proposed
currently-
hours are
sorry,
6 to
they're being
9.
moved to 6
You're
PM.
truncating them from 4 to 7. That's the winter hours.
That's the winter, correct.
4 to
Winter
7.
is 4 to 7,
And then 6 to 9.
6 to 9. Is 6 not early enough? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying we're cutting off an hour for no good reason. If there is a cross-country meet, there's going to be a conflict with dogs arriving at 6 o'clock.
Well,
So- So close the park to dogs until 7 o'clock, and the rest of the time, open it up till 5.
So I think what happens is that we also have lacrosse on the other fields.
I'm yet to see that, and my dog's been there since June. So I have not seen a lacrosse play on that field.
We do have the 2 fields on the far east side of the park are the 2 we use. One is north of the creek, one south of the creek. So that is it wasn't really cross-country we were concerned with, it was lacrosse because that's the field we've been using. Now, for the past 4 months, we haven't had anyone out there. And end of last year, we actually took them off the field because the coach was upset that he was being chased by dogs. So they are set to start back out there in June, though. That was the reason that it was 6 PM to 9, which it was 3 hours. Currently, currently the summer hours are 3 hours, 7 to 10. So it was 3 hours each way, is how we figured how it would work.
So we're actually we're actually starting an hour earlier than what is currently the case. We're proposing instead of 7 to 10, that it start from 6 to 9 in the summer. So we are proposing for it to start an hour earlier.
Tom's proposing 5 to 9.
Okay, noted. I think we'll take some time to discuss
You
that.
know, find out how many lacrosse games are out there. Like I said, I've been there frequently and never seen one.
Okay, thank you. And then, so your proposal for winter would be, instead of 4 to 7, would be from 4 to 8 for
Correct.
working?
And currently
till
for
10.
winter, we had 5 to 10. So it's a
Yeah.
5-hour window. So our proposal shortened it to 3, and then
I'm countering
suggestion,
with 4.
the suggestion is to lengthen to 4, so kind of in
For the
between.
people that work and arrive late.
It's really more to get that 7 to 8 PM hour for
Right.
working
Yeah.
folks.
And I think that's a reasonable suggestion, but I would actually defer to one of our residents that he knows here that's around the park and see how that would impact, because that's kind of where those earlier hours are impacted by the people that live in the area wanting less after dark hours. So I would just like to hear what someone else thinks before we make that. Yeah, but I think that's a reasonable.
I have an impression that we are extremely sensitive to neighbors in this village.
I would agree.
For instance, the private life or whatever it is over in Ogden,
Yeah.
where we've kicked out 3 times because of, 16 residents of Hinsdale that live on Adams.
Yep.
That's wiping out significant cash tax revenue to the rest of the village. And to care about 2 people on the perimeter of the park.
It is more than 2, though. Just because we've only had 2 speak out vocally, we do have more phone calls and emails that have come in, though. So there are a number of residents that have asked for it. So it's just a consideration. I'm not saying that the commission can't vote that way. I just would like to hear, again, I'm telling you it's feasible. The 4 to 8 is feasible. There's nothing out there to stop us from doing that, and it would be a reasonable request.
Another question, on the proposal, there's a list of police calls out to KLM, some with dog bites, some for just because. But there was a report out there, and I don't know if it's true, but somewhere earlier this year, there was a large fracas out there where they scrambled Burr Ridge and Hinsdale police to straighten it up. Does anybody know any details about that?
Involving dogs or just people?
The person that told me blamed it on disc golfers. We always blame everything on disc golfers. I mean, it could have been the lodge, for all I know. I'm just, there's no mention of it in that list of,
Well, the list was, the commission had specifically asked to see how many calls we'd had compared to previous. So they were just seeing that there's less calls now. So it seems to be impactful that these meetings we're having are helping curtail some of the outlying issues that we had. So there was just more of here's what's happening since we had this last meeting. So it was only dog calls or animal-related calls that were listed in there. I'm not sure about the issue that you're speaking on. If it were the lodge, I would have known about it. We have a number of vandalism. We had vandalism there this weekend, so we have a number of things like that happened that.
This sounded like a fight.
I apologize, I don't have that information.
We're always blamed for everything, those of us with dogs.
Oh, I mean, we
And-
know.
And we blame the disc golfers, but
Right.
we noticed in your permit proposal, there was no description of anything for disc golf.
Well, we have a rule things that we're doing for that, things that, those aren't ordinance based, so there's other things that we're doing for that, and I know we have other community members that can attest that we are working on those things. We actually relocated 2 of their holes last year to specifically keep them out of the neighboring areas.
That's another sore point. If you go out and look at their holes, you're looking at a lot of worn areas. People that have real golf courses don't let people out there in the rain.
We do close the parks when it rains, people just don't follow that. I mean,
We just don't
Yeah.
enforce it, right?
yeah.
That's-
Well, we aren't an enforcing body, that's the police, so we would have to ask the police to make sure they're enforcing that, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you for
much.
your comments.
I'm
evening.
Alita Belte. I live at 1200 Lori Lane, and that's the northeast corner. And I know that you collected input from people, and we got a notice that said that it was made available to the board, but I would like to take the 3-minute time to read it because this is recorded, and there's minutes, and there's a big thank you to a lot of people that need to be noted for the professionalism of all the people involved. So that's why I'd like to read what maybe you've already read. If not, now you have an opportunity to hear it. As a northeast corner contiguous property owners to KLM Park, our input on the current dog off-leash consideration is a very sincere thank you. First and foremost, thank you to all the Park District staff who have handled the entire process with great transparency, inclusiveness, and excellent communication. In particular, we commend Heather Breckus, who has only acted with incredible grace and professionalism throughout it all. Heather was merely doing her job in bringing the builder's proposal forward and relating facts concerning park experiences, but unfortunately often was treated as public enemy. However, she admirably remained patient and accessible throughout the very emotion-packed, arduously long and time-consuming process. We also say thank you to the dog owners for sharing your dogs with us. We've lived at that property. I'm in my 70s. I've lived in the Hinsdale area my entire life. I'm a product of Oak Elm Middle School and Hinsdale High School. But we've been in that northeast corner for 27 years. And the pets there have provided great entertainment over the years. We do not have a dog of our own, but sure have enjoyed yours. We have even renamed many of them to what we think their names should be based on their particular personality traits. Our hearts go out to you, since unfortunately there are a small number of dog owners using the park who have been the bad apples and are creating a nuisance for you and the surrounding neighbors. These are the dogs who, despite that they have the entire, dog owners who, despite the fact that they have the entire 13.5-acre park to exercise their dogs, choose instead to let their dogs aggressively bark at and agitate bad apple dog owners are nowhere near their dogs who are constantly barking. When they do come near, they seem to believe that the park rule of having their dogs under voice command must mean voice the command, because they only shout louder and louder at their dogs who choose to totally ignore the owner. We say thank you to the owners who through the years have been very considerate that the dog park is up against residential homes and have kept the barking to a minimum. We know that we live next to a dog park, and some barking is certainly to be expected. but anyone who has been at the park is well aware of the noise nuisance created by the bad apples. We applaud the new proposed ordinance changes, and in particular, the permitting fees and rules enforcement. We are hopeful that it may help to address some of these inappropriate behaviors. And finally, we extend our thanks to the Hinsdale Parks and Recreation Commission members who have put in numerous hours to address the resolution of the issues. Hinsdale can be quite proud of how you handled the public and their input. So thank you again, all of you. I'm those residents that you're not supposed to pay attention to. We pay attention to you and we care, sir. And as a long-term Hinsdale resident, in today's world of unkind and public input, et cetera, many times not being kind, it's nice to see, as an old-term resident, that some of it still exists. So I thank you all very, very much. And I will take, I'm sure some of you have no idea what I could possibly be talking about, so I'll take the rest of my 3 minutes so that you can hear. This is what we hear for 15 minutes at a time. They're in their car. They're up on the hill. They're nowhere close. We've got video cameras that there's no dog owner anywhere. It's like being next to a dog fight place where people pet animals. And it's the elephant in the room, folks. The good, it goes on forever. I have all kinds of them. The dog owners who have made it incredibly enjoyable for us to be next to a dog park all these years, it's the elephant in the room for them. They're afraid to speak up about this inappropriate behavior because they were afraid you'd take your dog away. And for the comment about the later hours for the residents, this is a resident, and I was basically relating it because we enjoy the dog owners. It's dangerous for the dog owners to be in the dark back in that corner. We have cameras because of what's happened to our property, and I can tell you on those cameras, there's coyotes, there's raccoons, there's skunks. It's a park, it's wild animals, and it's dark, and it's uneven terrain. So it is not because of necessarily the dog owners for at night, as much as it was I was trying to relate that it's a, potential lawsuit for you in terms of something happening to the dog owners. We are very concerned. You wouldn't want to listen to that at 5 or 6 in the morning. The village actually has a noise tolerance ordinance, 1292, that you can't do a lawnmower unless it's 8 to 8. That's not what we're asking. And you don't have any rule at all about this constant barking. So you can't even call the police about it because what are they going to enforce? It's a dog park. So minimally, we would ask that you put in something in the rules that says constant dog fighting type of barking is not allowed, so that maybe it could be enforced by the good dog owners. So I know they don't like it. They're way up on the hill. They're trying to distance themselves from these other people and their dogs. So perhaps it would help them say, it's not really allowed here. And it would certainly allow the neighbors to say, it's not really allowed here, versus being yelled at, it's a dog park, what do you expect? No, it's a dog park, we lived there for 27 years, you don't expect that. Times have changed, the people using your park has changed. Thank you very, very much for listening.
Alita, may I ask you a question while you're still here?
Absolutely.
Just to get another perspective. So currently, our winter hours are 5 to 10 p.m., which I know everyone has, we've heard a lot of feedback. I think that it's too late, it's pitch black, it's dark. The current proposal is 4 to 7. Is there an issue to you if it's 7 p.m. or 8 p.m.?
No, there was never an issue. There were obviously people from the park coming onto our property don't believe those were dog owners. It's an issue because we have a gazebo out there, we watch TV, and there's people with flashlights and what have you. I don't believe those are the dog owners. We like the dog park, we like the dog owners, and have for, a couple decades now. So our comments were about their safety. We really don't have an issue other than their safety for the hours at night. We know we can call the police of trespassing onto our property, and we've done things with cameras and other things to help our own safety with that, which very unfortunately has turned us into the bad people with the cameras. And they're really just really nice people that are just trying to live out their old age without looking up and seeing strangers in their backyard. So whatever you can do with that one, we'd really appreciate it. It's the early morning hours. And again, if you can find some way to deal with this noise factor, the other people being out with their dogs and not having there be any noise with the dogs, as there hasn't been for years, is again not a problem for us.
Okay.
And thank you again very much. And thank you, if you've read this, for listening to it again. I think it's important for it to be recorded. The world doesn't have enough thank yous.
Oh, thank you for your kind words, and thank you for your time.
If you don't mind, I have a quick question for Lisa or Bill. When we're talking about the summer hours, right now we're proposing 6 to 9. If, because of sports or cross country, we can't make the weekday hours work, would it be amenable to have weekend hours start a little earlier when we know we don't have activities at 6 p.m.? We know we could start 4 or 5 p.m. on the weekends. It would be the evening time, yeah, for the summer hours.
I would think on those sports days.
Well, and that's what we usually,
Like, why are you
That's what we
managing-
usually
like,
do.
Why are
That's
you
what we usually
managing half hours? It just gets everybody irritated.
right.
Like, I think it'd be just so much better saying, a resident, my personal perspective. would possibly
Lisa,
put
do
out
you
a-
mind just coming to the
No,
mic,
absolutely.
because no one
If
can
you're
hear.
asking my opinion, and I've sat in these
Sure.
seats, if you have a conflict with the kids, which, we know that's what we're here, like, the
Right.
kids are gonna play lacrosse, whatever they're gonna do, just say Tuesday night, no dogs.
Okay.
I think you're like, if I see, okay, I can get there at 7, and I get there at 7, I can't get there at 7, I can't get in because they're running, you're gonna get irritated. Just close the park that night.
Okay, that's what we've tried to do recently, is we usually put out the signs that say the park is closed these evenings, and we try to post signs at the beginning of the cross-country season
Yeah,
saying for these 13 days, because it's the middle school and both high schools in Hinsdale that use the space. So there's usually 13 to 15 meets throughout the fall.
Sure.
But in the summer, when we have lacrosse there, they're not usually on the weekends, they're in the mornings on the weekends. And outside of dog hours, they usually come between like 11 and 3. So we could extend the evening hours on the weekends. The concern is it's so inconsistent with their times in the weekdays that it wouldn't be a consistent schedule to put out to the community, which I think would cause confusion, because we're already hearing that there's confusion in the hours being
So Heather, I
alternated.
think like I said, I have this new puppy, so I'm there a lot more than I ever
Right,
was before.
okay.
In the weekends, you're gonna get, like, I don't go in the weekends because so many dogs
people do,
come,
okay.
and I don't think it's a great play environment for my
Okay.
dog. So, and it's a lot of, I don't know where they're coming, but I'm
Okay.
gonna suppose that I've heard they travel. So I would keep to simplicity.
Okay.
That's my suggestion. You close the pool. I've been here, like on pool, you close the pool when it's just, for various meets. I'm sure probably even more meets now. You just close it. It's part of who we are as a village. That's my suggestion.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah.
thank you.
Um,
Bill, did you want to share something else with it?
Oh, yeah, please.
Thank you.
We just had the park closed one morning, like a weekend or 2 weekends ago, for a disc golf, right?
Yep, just past weekend, that's correct.
Okay. So we were able to do it then, but we can't do it by the day for cross-country or lacrosse?
No, we do for cross-country right now because we know they're set days, but lacrosse, like I said, they're gonna be one day they're Tuesday 3 to 6, the next day they're 4 to 7 it's never a consistent schedule. It is like Monday, Wednesday will always have the same time, Tuesday, Thursday. But my concern is putting out to the community, if someone sees that the Monday hours are 6 to 9, but Tuesday, Thursday, we have issues. And we had issues this past weekend. The police had to be called out to get dog owners because people said, oh, we just ignored the email, or we don't care that there's signs posted. So we did have the police there for 2.5 hours to get people off site, that even though we sent the emails out, had it posted on the website, had the signs up. So I worry about the inconsistency. That's where I'm under, where I'm trying to find something that's simple and consistent, as you said, that where people know these are always going to be the hours.
I feel like we should, and there are plenty, I'm not gonna say that, like, the dog owners are, people walk without their leashes.
Sure.
People walk without their leashes, people do go up on the hill, they're not following the rules.
Or too many.
I would suggest that you keep it as simple as possible, so.
Okay.
That if we're in the park, we can say, oh, I know it's oh, Monday is this, that's really.
Sure. Okay.
One other suggestion, the golf course has got a nice bulletin board there.
Yep.
Why not one of those down in the dog park area?
That's what we're planning. We're actually planning to do a whole new revamp of the signage. So simple signage that's easier to understand, where it's visible. We've actually have updated the disc golf map too. We're going to be putting up new signage for disc golfers too, so explaining the rules to them. I think our whole approach for it this time is meant to be educational and not to be penalizing in any way, but to say, here's what we have, here's what the opportunities are, and to have it to be clear and understandable. So that's what we would like to do, yes. We'd like to do some more stuff down in that area.
That it's frequently changeable, where you could post a cross-country meet?
Yeah, we would,
or a
yeah.
golf meet, or-
Oh, yeah, we would have a bulletin board out there where we can post calendars. Yeah, correct.
I love the pooper bags.
Oh, thank you.
The poop bags. Heather, why don't you just take us through our proposal right now, just so that we can review one more time so everybody knows where we are, and then we'll have our discussion. Is that
Sure.
fair?
And I know in the previous, when we talked about this in January, we brought forth all the ideas that had been shared at the previous meeting from all of the different people that had given their input. And we kind of tailored it down and kicked a bunch of things out right away. And now we had put it down to even further to a handful of items. And I think in getting the feedback that we've had from the community in the past 3 months, we decided that there's really no point to go forward with a permit right now and hour changes. It was just too many things at once and too many things to try to enforce when we struggle to enforce already. So the current proposal is that we would do an ordinance change. So we as a board cannot make the ordinance change. We refer this to the Board of Trustees, who then would approve it. But the current ordinance has KLM off-leash hours being November 1st to February 28th, 29th on the year, from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. So we are proposing for the November 1st to March 31st. So instead of ending in February, it would go through March. And it would be 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then the 4 to 7 p.m. Though if I'm comfortable with us making a motion and amenable to 8 p.m., it feels like that's comfortable with everyone. So there's no reason not to. So we could say 4 to 8 p.m. there. And then the April hours, April 1st to October 31st, used to be March 1st to October 31st. So 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. is what we are proposing, where it used to be 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. So we're making those morning hours consistent across the board. So 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. for everyone. And then shifting the evening hours based on the dark sporting events, programs, things like that. That's the ordinance-based stuff. The other changes we're doing is we would put in new and additional signage installed throughout the park. Again, simplified, easy to understand, easy to read. New maps kind of in showing the disc golf course, the correct course where they can be, the new maps for the dog areas. We would also have various, I think we have like our CSOs from the police department and that, and we have our intern who will be, this is our intern, everyone, David, will be out there handing out some just informational things for people so that they know, to try to help with that educational component. We've established a website, a dedicated page to the dog hours now. We have an email group that's, I don't know, 60 plus emails that we have right now. 130 now emails. So as we get them, we try to add people to it. So we've definitely gained more traction in that. So that group where we can send out reminders that like Wednesday is mow day, so no dogs, during these hours or whatever it is, or there's a cross-country meet, or we're closing the park for something. So those all items are non-ordinance based. This includes the gate access into Hinsdale Meadows, which we have tried to manage with sort of a bike lock style lock, and that's not working. So we're actually looking at replacing the gate with a code access gate instead. So getting all those things in place. There's also, we're looking to extend the height of the fence, and poor Lita can tell you this. We had the fence ordered last year, and it has been on back order since last June, I think, about there. They finally canceled our order this year, and now have quoted us about 5 times what it used to be, so it's now capital dollars. So we are actually proposing to put it in the capital plan for this next year to fix so the fence has holes, and I know you guys are using it. There's a number of holes along the fence line's short, people are jumping the fence. So to kind of curtail a number of those issues, we would be putting the fence
How tall is that
placements in.
fence right now?
It's a 6-foot fence right now.
And this
we're-
is the north boundary, right?
the whole fence is 6 foot, so we're looking to actually increase it to an 8-foot fence, and slightly different style, so it does not allow easy climbing, and if we have, errant discs flying, it doesn't go into people's yards.
Are we
and-
proposing on the northern boundary or greater than that?
No, it would be the northern and the western, or the eastern boundary, and then the other sides of the park would just have all of the holes and the gaps and stuff like that hopefully fixed. They would be mended in that area. So that's our goal. Again, it's significant capital dollars, so it may be 2 years in the making, but we would be replacing those and putting that in place to kind of improve the area. Again, none of those are ordinance-based. They're all just budgetary. The signs would be pretty much immediate as soon as we can get them designed and posted. And then the lock changing and the fence work will, hopefully we would get it done sooner than later. It just is going to depend on whether we can actually get the order in and have the work done. So that's what we're looking at right now. Tonight would be a motion for you to approve this going to the board or not approve it going to the board based on whatever hours you decide.
Okay, thoughts?
Well, I'm sorry, I should add, I know that was mentioned about the noise regulation hours. I can add that's something that's going to have to go through our code enforcement and through our attorney, but I'm sure there's something we can ask them to put in place that specializes or that specifies what a dog barking level is appropriate. I'm sure there's something we can come up with. I just don't know what that would be tonight. And that's something I can run past the attorney.
But the result of that would be calling the police to resolve it?
Yeah, and I think right now that's what I tell everyone, but I know that, and Alita's not the only person I have a number of residents that call about it. What I say is you need to call the police, and there's always that hesitancy to call the police for something that seems so minor, especially when we have burglaries and things like that happening on a regular occurrence in town right now. So I think there's that fine line they're trying to walk. So maybe there's just signs reminding people too of the noise ordinance, and if you have a dog that's barking excessively, that, there's something that we can do. I'm sure there's
Well, I'm
something
just
we can put in
wondering
place for
what
it.
that enforcement is, because I'm not sure.
I'm
what
not
that-
sure either, so I would need to
what
talk
that
with our
is.
attorney and the PD and see what we can go
Okay.
do from there.
Thoughts, questions?
I would say I like the simplified, sort of streamlined version of this versus where we left it last time. I wasn't a big fan of the permitting and, and that sort of thing, just because I thought there was a lot of administration, and I think a number of the comments from the public made the point that that is most likely to negatively impact the people who are following the rules and, sort of do little to dissuade the rule breakers. But maybe it makes enforcement easier. But at any rate, I think it's a good starting point where we are now with this proposal, and then we can grow into something more significant if we need to. I'm probably in favor of some adjustments to the hours as suggested here. I think the notion of simplicity, consistency as much as possible is, and not varying hours unnecessarily, throughout the seasons and so forth. I think if if you left the morning hours as proposed, 6 to 10 a.m., that it shaves an hour in the early morning, which addresses some of the resident concerns. And then if we kept the evening hours 4-hour chunks for both seasons, but shifted them based on the changing daylight hours. So I would say 4 to 8 in November to March 31st, And then 5 to 9, if we can resolve any potential conflicts with sports, that creates another 4-hour chunk. So we have 2 4-hour chunks, which is consistency in my mind, but we've shifted that 4 hours to the extent possible. But I don't have enough visibility into the potential for conflict.
We would have to not rent the new level field on the north side if to do 5 o'clock. Consider that the high school's out at 3 or 3:30. Their practice is usually, they don't even get there till 3:30, 4 o'clock, so they're usually there until 5:30 or 6. So I mean, it would be, again, it's not a consistent schedule, so there's some days that they're not there, but we would then have to have changing hours. So if they weren't going to use that field, which we can say we're not going to use that field and expand dog hours, that's the concern. I would put them somewhere else in town, but our fields are at capacity. I mean, we've had significant growth in not only the rec programming in town, but the leagues that we have recreational, like Hinsdale Little League, Falcon Football, our rugby leagues. They're all seeing 100% growth over previous years, it's insane. We don't even have enough field space to house them now. So that would be an issue. Like where would we put those
I would
groups?
not be in favor of like decommissioning a field,
Yeah.
to provide more.
If there was a way for us to figure it out where they could all just use the lower field and not lose revenue too, I think that, I don't want to say that it's an absolute no. We would take some research before we could say yes to that earlier hour.
And that's fine. I was just suggesting that, like I said, for consistency's sake of 4-hour chunks in the evening.
Okay.
But if there's good reason why that's just not feasible, then fine.
Okay.
I mean, and it does say that if we put some new hours in place, as we would already be doing, we would revisit this.
We can
again
reevaluate too.
At
So
6
we-
months,
yeah.
because I do think,
Yep.
again, I agree that I would not want to limit the field usage to increase the dog hours.
Right.
And I do think that we need to keep things as simple and straightforward as
Okay.
possible. Because you can, if you do it one day this, one day that, I just think that's going to just create
Sure.
trouble. I also agree with starting off with just the hour changes versus the permitting. I like the idea of permitting in the sense of, okay, it sounded good in the sense of everybody who gets a permit will come and they'll know the rules and all of this, but I feel like it's just a little bit of over managing the whole system, and I think that when I stopped and thought about why are we even bringing this up in the first place, it wasn't because we had an issue with dog incidents at the park. It was because of the proposal initially. So I feel like it's just kind of going a little bit overboard to start with. And so I had thought that even before, the new thoughts came out. But I do think as far as the signage, like as far as disc golfers, like for instance, when the parks are wet and we can't have soccer practice, the fields are closed. I mean, if you were trying to keep disc golfers off the fields, I mean, wouldn't we also be trying to keep the dog people off the fields as well?
Yeah, I mean, any
if
users.
the parks are wet, I mean, I'm not sure that that's
Right.
what we want to do, but I'm just saying, it's not like the disc golfers would cause as much problem as the dogs in the wet.
Right. We use rain outline, which is what we post the closing of the field so that we're not seeing damage to those turf areas. And that's what's used to close all of our parks. And KLM is listed on there as closed. KLM also has it has that creek that runs through it, which we know we've had dogs swept away in there before and children. So that's the reason the horse fence was put in, as I call it. That's part of the reason that we say, there's wet conditions out here or there's dangerous conditions. That's why we try to post it as being offline. Now that's something that would go into our signage. Every time it rains, we don't have like an electronic board out there that we can update saying it's done, but it would be something that would be, rain outline is online, people can put an app on their phone, they can scan a QR code, they can do whatever to find out if the park's listed as open then. So yes, we do try to keep people off the fields. The walking paths are different, but the fields, we try to keep them out when there's excessive wet conditions. Yeah.
Right, because other than being there physically and sticking a sign up that says it's closed today because of water, that's just really not feasible
Right.
every time, just like at all the parks.
Right.
You can't, I mean.
That's why we moved to an online version of
Yes.
something. So it posts to our social media, it posts to our website. There's a phone number you can call.
Yeah, I
There's
do see
an
it,
app you can put on your phone. I
Facebook
mean, there's a number of ways you can find out if the parks or fields are open. Yeah.
I think another thing, as far as QR codes, if you had a QR code on the, like the poop bag area or something that said, please, here's where you can find all our information.
Yep.
Our email
That's what we're
list.
planning, to have a simplified sign, but for detailed information on everything, just scan this and you'll be able to find everything.
Right.
That's what we're hoping to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I really do think it's an instance where most people the people who would come in and get the permits, or, if we were doing that system, most people follow the rules. The people perhaps that aren't following the rules are the people that wouldn't be coming in and getting the permit,
Likely, yes.
possibly. I don't know, I'm kind of talking around it, but I'm just trying to dialogue.
Yeah,
So-
at this point, I think everyone's staff, the commission and our community members are comfortable with the permit being removed at this time and just starting with the whole education component, adjusting hours to be amenable to both the neighbors and the dog park community. So I think that's really what we'd like to see start with first. And again, the education component where we're increasing that signage and its visibility out there. Yeah.
So I'm also in favor of the change of the 4 to 8. I think we're all, I think we all are in agreement on that one. So I think that would be a fine change to make in terms of the motion. I mean, in terms of some of the other things that we were talking about in terms of the permits and all, I mean, the one benefit that I thought that had was bring a little bit more formality into it. And what we really talked about and through all this process was that this is really an enforcement issue, that people aren't following the rules, and people aren't going to follow the rules unless you really enforce them. And I thought that going the permit route and having a situation where when the person gets the permit, they have to certify that they have the rules, they've seen the rules.
Right.
You made a reference to some sort of incident or some day at the park where you had told people that it wasn't going to be open, and people were still there, and they basically said, yeah, I got the email, but I ignored it.
That was this past Saturday. Yep.
I mean, that's a problem. That's a
Right.
problem, because did those people get ticketed? Did they get cited?
No, we had an officer out there, and she just told everyone they had to leave. So no,
Okay,
like
so
they
the
weren't
next time
ticketed,
this
they were told
happens,
to
they're
leave.
just going to ignore it again. And we can't do anything about that.
Right, but
We can't enforce the rules.
But I'm not sure, but I mean, it's the same thing, if people had a permit, the same idea holds, that if you're trying to enforce, then it has to be enforced with
Right.
a fine.
Right.
So permit or no permit, it's enforcement, and I think that as far as the police, we go back and forth about how.
Right.
How thinly, how they're already spread kind of thin, but there still has to be some enforcement so that people, word of mouth, someone actually gets a ticket, and then word of mouth travels, they're ticketing.
And I think our dog community had shared at one of the meetings that they would be interested in doing something like a volunteer program where they kind of serve as like a park volunteer, where they're out there educating people and helping with that enforcement. I know Cook County does it for their dog parks. They have, there's a name for what they call it, and I can't remember off the top of my
Like
head.
Friends of the Dog Park or
But
something like that.
so there's always a chance for that. I mean, this is our staff though. I mean, we as Parks and Rec we don't have the availability to be out there full time, and the police are obviously spread thin. So there's a solution we need to find somewhere for that enforcement. But again, I'm hoping the educational piece helps. I'm hoping that push to say, here's our new hours. Again, maybe the new hours will help too. A lot of that we see is the borders of when our hours start and end, like that 9 to 10, which we've been really flexible with lately because we know we intended to change it. So, but we also see them like the afternoon hours where we see people coming in at 4 instead of 5 o'clock, or we see a lot of those things happening at that time. So I think once they know what the hours are, once it's clearly visible, our officers will have an easier time when they are out there enforcing it to say, there's 12 signs right in front of you. Like we're not going to just let this go this time. They have been, in their defense, they have been writing tickets, and you can see that they've increased their patrols out there. They have written tickets. We had people paying in pennies because they were so angry that we were actually writing tickets again.
She got a $25 ticket and she wrote a letter with the ticket that said, since you have so much time to spend in the park, you can spend that time counting these pennies.
Again, so they are doing it, maybe not as consistently as we would like, but I think they are trying to step it up at our request. So, I'm not trying to make excuses. I just know they're thin and there's a number of other more important issues in town that they're trying to deal with. So I do know we have a dog park community that wants to help, and we have people that are, and neighbors that actually want to see this work well too. So I really think that the education, the more signs, the more people that know the rules and are following the rules, the more that group mentality will hopefully spread. So.
Yeah, and I think, like, as is noted in the proposal, I mean, we'll be looking at this and doing a review of what compliance has been in 6 months, and we'll see
Compliance
if-
is better. I mean, we have about half the calls we had in the same time period for the year prior. So that's good, I guess. I mean, that's for what they're doing. So, yeah.
And I imagine that's a function of this whole process and the
100%.
awareness and
Yep.
attention
Fresh in
that it's
everyone's
brought.
minds.
Yeah.
The responsible dog owners are chastising those that are not being responsible, and our PD is out there more often. I think the lodge staff has been more proactive in it too. They've been keeping record of it and telling people, when they, matter of fact, when we did the wine and food pairing, Maggie and I were leaving at 10:30 one night, and people were there with their flashing collars in the park at 10:30. So I was like, the park was closed an hour ago, well, and half an hour ago, and you can't be here. So a lot of us we're trying to share that information more proactively. Yeah. Once you guys have determined what you'd like to do, I need a motion either in favor or against, and then the specific hours. And the only thing I would say is that if you'd like to make a motion to have it be 5 to 9, you can say 5 to 9 or 6 to 9, and then we can determine if there's a way to make the 5 to 9 work. So if you put either forward, then we don't have to bring it back again. Does that make sense? And we can figure out which is
Because I was
amenable.
looking through all of these, the reports that came in, and honestly, half of them are outside of the
Yep.
allowable hours right now
Right.
as well. So whether people were permitted or not, it doesn't matter because they were there at a time they weren't supposed to be there. So if they had a permit, they would still be getting fined. I think the whole idea about the registration in and of itself, in my mind, was for us to have a good communication vehicle, to be able to let people know the hours, when there are cross-country meets, when there are, special events like we had that Sunday morning that we had in lieu of the Polar Express, we
Right.
had an event out there, so the dog park was closed. To be able to communicate better and to be able to communicate with all users, I guess,
Right.
mostly that was the dog users at that time. It is a park. Honestly, I think our parks are a jewel in Hinsdale. I mean, I think it's one of the things that attracted us to this town as well. There's so much green space here. It's free space to use. I don't want to get into a battle with who's registered to play paddle and who's going to, who's allowed to use the playground and who's playing disc golf and whose dogs are there. It's a park. Parks are to be used by all entities. If there is a serious, serious issue, then we have to address it. I think this whole situation that we've gone through over these last few months, I mean, the emotions have been very high in here, but I think it's caused people to come forward. We've gotten a lot of good feedback. We've gotten a lot of good recommendations, which really help us in our decision-making. But I have really kind of come full circle from at the beginning when we were also like, oh my gosh, we need to do something to control this, to I do think hours are a big, big deal. And I do think changing these hours and doing this step by step, instead of creating this massive amount of work and registering and permitting. And I'm very sensitive to our senior citizens as well that have written in and said, hey, I just want to go walk through there with my dog and I don't want to have to pay $50, or I take care of my grandkid's dog once a month or something. Do I really have to pay to take my, that dog to the park? I mean, we really are representatives of all of our citizens. And so in my mind, I take that very seriously. I think as we all do. So I am very comfortable with this proposal in terms of let's do this first step. Let's take a look at these hours. Frankly, in my opinion, I have no issues with the 4 to 8 p.m. You know, we're pulling it in from 10 p.m. right now, for goodness sakes. 10 to 8 p.m. is a big reduction. So I think 4 to 8, so 6 to 10 a.m. year-round, I think is fine. I think, is it fair to say there are more users in the park in the morning, more dog owners in the morning than in the evenings? Maybe it's just when it happens to be that I drive by there. And when I used to go, I would go in the morning as well. So I feel like that's,
But I also only feel like I'd go in the morning because at the night it was dark.
because it was dark at night.
It was dark, and I didn't really feel like I was comfortable there.
One of the best things here is moving the early hours in the wintertime,
I agree.
so you're not going.
In the dark, correct,
I
yes,
mean, we had a lighted column for our little creature, but,
yes.
I was actually more concerned about my personal safety than my dog.
Well, I think it's the safety of both. Yes, yes, I agree. So I love the go ahead.
the thing we've got to remember that we're not getting to the extent we should, are non-residents. I mean, we've got poorly behaving residents that will tell you, I pay taxes, I'm not following the rules and all that stuff. And we try to confront them about wanting to follow the rules and all that. But there's a lot of non-residents that use the park and they're not getting the work. So clean signage might help. You know, we don't know if they're gonna read it or not, but
But I do agree that having signage on the other side of the creek, having signage over where the dog users walk, like everyone walks down that one walkway, crosses the creek. I think there's a poop bag dispenser like right there. So having some permanent signage there that we can switch around as hours change, as, you know, the time of year comes that it needs to be closed for cross-country or for whatever the events are. Think having a QR code on there is fabulous. I would love to see something like, if you'd like to get on our mailing list, our distribution list, you know, this is the website, but this is the email address, or this is the number to call. Let's build that list, which is amazing that it's 120 now, Maggie?
Yeah,
100
and that's what I pulled from the sign-in sheets at the
Okay.
meetings.
And that's just from people that have come to the meeting. So
Yeah.
it would be wonderful to have, and maybe it's an ad in the paper with a QR code or something they can scan. Let's spread the word and get it into the doing, so it's not just in Hinsdale, to your point of residents, because Burr Ridge is right there. Those Burr Ridge residents live across the street and around the park. They enjoy it as well. And that's okay. This is a part.
Chicago, they come from Hickory Hills.
They come from all over.
We know from the meeting, we had people coming from Lombard, people coming from the city.
Right.
I mean, they were
Right.
coming from everywhere,
So we should really just try, I mean, that list honestly could be
Right.
several hundred people long.
Right.
The idea is, I think, to be able to communicate the hours and the expectations, educate. And I'm
However,
com-
we don't need to advertise it too
No,
much.
we don't
because
need to advertise
We
it.
don't, we welcome people to our park, but we don't want to advertise to people
That's a
who
good-
don't know
a very
about
good-
it.
A very
Right.
good point, Heather. Yes, that's a very good point.
Don't mean to.
Right.
So I guess when I look personally at the summer hours, you know, so 6 to 10 year-round, morning hours are great. Consistent, I think, would be the best means. Evening, currently 7 to 10, pulling it 6 to 9, we're already pulling it forward an hour. I, at this point, would hate to give up our field rental, and, I mean, the park is also for the use of the children, and the safety of those is one of our biggest issues as well. We got to make sure that we are protecting them. I would be comfortable pulling it forward 1 hour, 6 to 9, and seeing how that goes. I see you nodding your head. I appreciate that very much. I truly would recommend waiting until January before we revisit. I think we need to go at least, you know, a couple months into the winter hours. Let's get through summer hours.
Okay.
Let's get partway through winter hours, because we don't have to adjust summers and then realize winter didn't work out the way we expected. So I'd love to revisit this in January.
Okay.
I would also love to, so Heather, what's the time frame? I know we have to do first read and second read with the Board of Trustees, with the village.
Yep. So this will go to the village board at their June meeting, which means it would be a first read and it would be a consent item for the July meeting. That all being said, we can be preparing that signage after that now. I mean, so we can be ready to go as soon as we
We
have the
do have a
final.
way to fast track though, don't we?
Well, because it's an ordinance change, you can't fast track it. It has to go through two
It has to go through the
meetings
two readings.
because it's an
okay.
ordinance change.
It's not
yeah.
like it's been on so many agendas so far.
But
I think
again,
they're pretty well
we've
aware
been
of what's
pretty
going on.
lenient with those morning hours. we're not writing tickets between 9 and 10 because we know we intend to change it and people want those later morning hours.
Because that's what because last year we had that
Knowing that this
typo
is
and it
coming-
was till 10
Right.
a.m.
Knowing that this is coming forward, I can give that direction to the police department saying these are going to be our hours. Let's be lenient during this time so that we're at least seeing that happen.
Because I'd like to informally distribute that. I don't want
Right.
people to think that there are people there breaking the rules when
Right.
they're there at 9:30, when we're saying, we're going to do 6 to 10. So
Yeah.
I know we have to wait for the official ordinance approval, and hopefully that
Yeah.
will happen through the board, but I'd like to get that out there now.
Right. Yeah, we can do that. And then there are other things like the lock and some of the
Assuming
signage
we
related to disc
vote
golf
on
and
that.
things like that can be done in the meantime. Those don't have to wait for an ordinance change. So those are just us getting the feedback here and then going forward to create those things.
The other thing I would say is, I guess I'd just like to quick message to all of our residents and citizens and out there that have come forward, that have taken the time to write, that have taken the time to come to the meetings. We really do value everybody's input. It helps us as commissioners. We are the voice of the people, and we're trying to reflect that in what we do. And I really, really want to thank our staff because they have been at the receiving end of nasty phone calls, nasty emails. And you were talking about kindness, like really, you know, they're doing their jobs. They are the relayers and the messengers, and they're getting shot over and over. And so thank you to all of you, truly, for being on that end, because we just get the information. You know, people don't directly come to us, they write to us. But so thank you for being on the receiving end of that. We do appreciate that. I do feel that we've done a pretty good job of trying to incorporate everybody's inputs so far. And I do think that there are a small number of people that just don't follow the rules, and it doesn't matter what we do, they're still not going to follow the rules. And, you know, the police in this town, things are just happening all around. They have more important things to do. I love that we have regular patrols that go down anyways. This is part of their, you know, their patrol area. And they can be called for other reasons, you know, if there are other severe reasons that they need to be there, they are there to support us. So I really do feel let's go the education route before we go the really much more severe. And yes, if tickets need to be written, tickets should be written. Yeah, totally agree with that.
One thing you might want to think of in the future is a lot of people are using remote towers. How to address that as being leashed or not leashed.
Okay.
County towers.
Oh, you mean they don't wear a leash?
And so they don't wear the leash because they just assume that they're leashed when they're, so the rule is, the regulation is, you're leashed until you cross the creek. And that's something we really have to work on because all kinds of things can happen. Dogs get distracted and my dog is on one of those as well. We have one when we're outside and it's still not the same as being leashed.
So you might want to address that because there are several people.
Okay.
And that's fine once they're on the other side of the creek, but not on this side, not on the parking lot side.
Yeah,
And
the
you know,
definition of a
honestly,
leash.
and honestly, the best way is for you that are out there to say something to those people as well. I mean, it's the power of numbers, I think, that is,
And Albert and I have talked about that, and the response makes us worry about ourselves. A lot of people
the response what? The response makes us,
Next to it, serve every day of your life. You just, I shall
He's worried about his safety, like playing that.
oh, you're worried about your
Okay,
safety. I understand.
if we,
I think the police should be advised, if they are doing this, to get out of the car and walk back to that point. Because if they're below the hill of the lacrosse field, you could have the Russian army back.
Yeah, and I think that's part of their, something that can be passed along.
Especially at like that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
a good idea.
Do we have any other questions? Are we ready to make a motion? Do you want me to make the motion?
if one of you can make a motion, and then we'll need all four of you to vote
So
for
are we,
quorum.
so
I-
I guess,
Go
are,
ahead, yep.
I move that we accept or move
So-
forward the proposal as stated with the one modification of hours during the summer periods change from 4 to 7 to 4 to 8
Winter.
PM.
Winter.
Okay,
Winter.
so you're motioning to recommend that to propose ordinance changes to be reviewed by the village board of trustees in the stated hours.
Yes.
Yes. You gotta say that.
I think I wrote down motion to recommend the ordinance with the proposed changes to the Board of Trustees.
Okay, so I think the
that works
motion is,
too.
we are making a motion to accept the
You're making a
proposal
motion
that
to
has been-
refer this to the village board. That's what you're
to
doing.
to
Yes.
refer this to the village board with the exception of the November 1st to March 31st hours, 6 to 10 a.m., and in the evening, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then our April 1st to October 31st hours will again be 6 to 10 a.m. and 6 to 9 p.m. at this point in time.
Right.
And that we will revisit in January, partway through, and see.
Okay.
We're doing.
Are we ready to vote?
Are we all ready to vote on that motion? Yes.
Alice, you actually get to vote on this one for quorum.
Oh, great.
Um,
I get to vote.
So Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Commissioner Boroff,
Aye.
Commissioner Hester,
Aye.
Chairman Waverly.
Aye.
Excellent, the motion passes. Oh, who seconded that motion?
I don't think we had a second. I'll second it.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Thank
We're
you.
usually not that disorganized.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And
I
thank
really
you so much for
totally,
coming
totally do.
and for
I love how
expressing
you
that.
listen to the community and then change your mind. People are talking like, I think you guys did a great job.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
absolutely. And thanks for big Madison contingency here, right?
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Spread the word. We'll try and get the hour, we'll try and see if we can get the hours out there.
a
little more quickly.
Absolutely. I really did. I really think the process was really well. I appreciate it, yeah.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for coming.
All right, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We can move back to approval of minutes, please.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, I didn't even do that.
Could I just make one suggestion, comment? Like, as you're working on the signage,
Can you shut those doors?
to make that an inclusive process, like, if we
I think
can-
similar like we did with pickleball,
we-
I'm gonna draft something and send it to you guys to look at.
Yeah, because
Is
I
that-
think size, I think location, and I think the words matter a lot.
Yep, I agree.
And, it's hard for any one person to kind of get all of that
Yep,
stuff
I agree.
right.
Alice and I had talked separately, but that's the plan, would be to draft something like we did with pickleball, send it out to the group for feedback, just to see where it's at before we actually produce anything. Yeah,
Good idea.
correct. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you all for that. Months in the making, but hopefully we've got a workable solution for the time being. Okay, so let's go back all the way to the beginning. I even skipped the minutes. Do we have any questions, inputs, updates to the minutes from the February 8th meeting?
The one thing I noticed is on page 2, under old business B, I think you've just got sort of like your shorthand
Yep, I
for
sure
who
did.
made the motion and who seconded, so
Yep.
just put that in your typical
I was
format.
wondering if that
Thank
was,
you.
so- you know, I saw that too. I saw that too, Darren.
I put my shorthand in instead of your full names.
Got it.
That was all I.
Thank you. I see now. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? No? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Got that one. All right. Gateway Special Recreation Association. Heather?
So the one thing I'd really like to call your attention to is you're gonna see my name a lot in here. We've had a lot of, over the past couple of years, we've had a lot of people reaching out who are looking for day programs. So I'm going to kind of explain what the day program is. Currently, if you're in the transition program in the high school, so if you're special needs, there's a transition program that the high school offers, which is up until the age 21. Once you turn 21, it didn't matter if that was the middle of the school year or, like a random day in November, you were kicked out of the program. And so for the rest of the school year, you had nowhere to go, nothing to do. And it had been hard for parents. So new legislation in the last 2 years has changed that, where if you are in the program and you can be in the program through the end of your school year in your 21st year of age. So what's happening though is this transition program is a really great program that D86 does, and it's really prepares some of these people for working or just kind of living as an adult. Well, once they leave that, we don't have a good solution in our community for what those members can then go do. So I've had a number of people calling over the years asking about options. Now, Ray Graham, who is the parent company of Gateway, so Gateway SRA is what the SRA that we're part of, the Special Rec Association. Gateway is run by Ray Graham's staff. So that's who our contract with is with Ray Graham. And if you're not familiar, Ray Graham is based out of the Hanson Center, right at the edge of Hinsdale Ridge. They do offer a day program. However, their day program is not part of our SRA contract. So if someone from our community wanted to join that day program, it's a private pay situation. So they would have to pay to be there. In most of those people looking for day programs are either working parents who can't be there to essentially assist their child all day long, or people that just need respite and need 2 or 3 days where they can just have that to themselves and aren't caretaking for their child. So the day program usually starts somewhere around 9 a.m. and ends at 3:30 or 4. So it's basically a full day program that someone goes to. There is that option. So anyone that's within our community can go to Ray Graham, but it is, again, private pay, so it's not subsidized in any way by the community. And it's not, we have other communities around us. C-SPAR is a good example. So C-SPAR is used by Clarendon Hill. C-SPAR is an organization like Gateway that Clarendon Hills is part of, Western Springs is part of. A number of communities sort of near us are also part of it, where they have a day program that is subsidized by the community and subsidized by fundraising. So people can join that and they just pay like a small user fee, kind of like if you were going to one of our rec program classes. It's a different level of day program than what Ray Graham offers. They have brand new facilities. It's just kind of a higher quality program. Not to say that anything Ray Graham offers isn't a good program. It's just not comparatively the same level as like C-SPARs would be. So when you're in the transition program at Hinsdale Central, that's anyone who's in the D86, not even Central, but anybody in D86, so Hinsdale South and Central. Right. Yeah. So you're not necessarily from Hinsdale. You could be from Clarendon Hills. You could be from Darien. You could be from Westmont. Wherever those lines are, you're not necessarily a Gateway participant. So when kids leave the transition program and some of them qualify for C-SPAR and some don't, we have parents that'll call and say, what can we do? And there is no way for our residents of Hinsdale to join C-SPARs because we don't have a contract with them. We can't pay to let them be in there. There's no way for us to be able to pay for them to be in there. It's not how the program works. So the alternative is that they then go to a private pay somewhere, or they look for other options. And there are other things in the area that pay for that. Over the last 3 years, I've had 3 different parents call, and I have found that there's a group of people right now in the transition program within the next 2 or 3 years that will be transitioning out and looking for other alternatives. So I've been bringing it up to the Gateway Board to consider adding our own day program. Now, again, this is very, very early conversation that we're having, kind of pushed by the residents that have reached out to me. All of Gateway would have to vote for it. It would increase our fees, which means our rec tax would increase, which means this would go through the board. This would go through all kinds of meetings. But the conversation is coming up because of our community members asking what opportunities there are for their children. Right now, we're saying Ray Graham is your alternative, but Ray Graham is not necessarily the alternative that they're looking for. Does that make sense? How I'm explaining it so far?
How does the Ray Graham program,
So
how
it's
does
a-
it different from C-SPAR? Is the
So
same
so
hours?
C-SPAR, for example, is they have 2 brand new apartments that they have set up like any person that lives in an apartment. They have active kitchens, they have active bedrooms, bathrooms, where you can go in and learn all of those everyday tasks that you would need to learn in those spaces. They're brand new facilities. Their staff are up to date with all of their training. Not to say that Ray Graham isn't, but they have staff who've had every training you can, and they're kind of top of their class kind of staff that they have there, and their facilities are top of the line. Ray Graham has something similar, but it's much older. It's not based in an apartment. It's just kind of in the Hanson Center building. There's like some stoves, or there's some things that they can teach them. A lot of their time is actually spent maybe doing outside tasks, like going to grocery stores and things like that, rather than maybe doing as much as their on-site stuff too. So it's not the same level or quality of program that you see other SRAs offering. And again, it's because Gateway we don't fundraise for it because we don't have the approval for a day program through Gateway. My understanding is that about 12 years ago, this came up and Gateway voted against it. The only reason
Village board voted against it?
Gateway Board voted against it, so it never even came to our village board. But the village board again, this was a village board 12 or 13 years ago. At the time, there was actually even discussion about us leaving Gateway and not offering any kind of SRA stuff to the community, and the community had some pushback to that. So I think we have a different board now that I don't know that that would happen, but I'm kind of putting it out there to Gateway and to our community that there may be a need for us to look at a different type of day service. And maybe it can still be Ray Graham, but maybe there's a way that we subsidize it so that when you're private paying for something, the private pay that you are putting forward gives you the same product that you see someone doing for subsidized. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? They want to see a better product for what they're paying. And I don't know where that's going to exactly, if that will come forward at this time. I just know that there's been more conversation about it. And a way we could get around it is we could eventually say we want to leave Gateway and try to move into C-SPAR and set up a contract with them. That's an option if C-SPAR is willing to negotiate it.
So why are we not a part of C-SPAR?
Because C-SPAR at the time, it didn't fit the need that we had for the community. It would be a significant cost for us too. We would have to contribute a lot more money to it than we do to Gateway.
Do we know, so, like, what are we talking about? What is the cost of the Ray Graham program? And what is the cost?
I don't know the cost off the top of my head. I would have to look that up. I just know that there's a significant price difference in what C-SPAR also has a wait list like a mile long right now. So there's people in their own communities that can't even get into their day programs too. So it's a well sought after program.
So you're talking about a live-in program, or you're talking just about the 7 to 7:30?
Just that-
Or 3:30, sorry.
just that, it's just the day. So like 7 to 3:30 or 8 to 4, whatever it is.
Because the
It's just
apartments
that
you were
time.
referring to, that's a complete live-in program.
No, that's not a live-in program. It's where they act. It's like a classroom almost. Like it's a
Oh,
classroom
I
where we
understand.
teach you how to cook. We
Okay,
teach you how to
that's
make
my
a bed. We teach you how to wash laundry. It's just a top of the line facility is what it is compared to what Ray Graham has offered. So some of our parents that go from our transition program at the high school that is top of the line then are faced with what they don't see as comparable with Ray Graham's day program, where there are other day programs in neighboring communities that are comparable to what the transition program offered.
And it is only Hinsdale residents that have this issue? So anyone else
No.
getting into
So Burr Ridge
D86?
has the same issue. Willowbrook has, anyone in Burr Ridge, Willowbrook, Hinsdale, Countryside, Pleasantdale, York Center, Elmhurst, Oakbrook, they all have that same problem because they're all Gateway. So so it's not just, I'm just saying that the reason C-SPAR is used as an example is because Clarendon Hills is C-SPAR and they filter into that D86 group, and Darien, so they filter into that D86 transition group. So your friends that might have been in your transition program aren't going to necessarily be in the same day program as you. Some of them have access to a top of line day program and others don't. So that's where,
I just got confused. Did you just get confused? Was it just me? Okay, so we've got C-SPAR and we have Gateway, and Gateway is Ray Graham, correct?
Gateway
Ray-
it's staffed by Ray Graham staff. So Gateway is its own SRA, but Ray Graham is the parent company that staffs it. So Ryan, who is the superintendent for Gateway Special Rec, she is a Gateway staff, but Ray Graham is who hired her to run the Gateway SRA.
Okay, because Gateway is something we provide our
Yeah, and
residents.
Gateway as it is right now, which covers ages 3 up to 21, is a fantastic program. I mean, our residents love it. Everyone it's a fantastic program. The problem is we don't have Gateway itself doesn't have a day program. It's not part of our SRA, so
For the
they have to
21
go
plus.
for the 21 plus. Yeah, so they have to go to Ray Graham, who provides the services throughout the community. Like you could be from Wheaton and go to Ray Graham. I mean, it's not specialized to your area because it's a private pay. So that's all that's available to our residents right now is this private pay Ray Graham facility or another private pay facility. Maybe I should have started that way. It's that only option they have for day programs for people in Hinsdale right now is a private pay program instead of an SRA that's subsidized. So anyhow, no one is actually, we've been able to find solutions for people so far, but I am anticipating in my conversations with our Gateway superintendent that we will see a group of people in the next couple of years saying, what can we do better? Or what can we do? Because there's a group of people in that age group that will age out within the next 3 to 4 years or so and likely be looking for some sort of day program that meets their needs. So it was just kind of me putting it out there. I've asked Gateway to put it on as a reoccurring agenda item
Is
to
Gateway
just
not
discuss it.
interested in increasing their age? Is that not an option?
They're not legally, they're not allowed to. The SRA program by state legislation ends at 21. So that's where I said in the last 2 years, they've changed it. Instead of kicking you out at the day you turn 21, they let you finish through that school year that you were 21. Yeah. Yep.
What number of?
Well, and let me
what
be
number
clear,
of-
sorry. Their rec programs extend to all ages. So like when you see people going on like the field trips or you see people in the softball leagues, that's all ages. It's the actual transition day programs that you age out of. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay.
And what is the number of people that we're talking about?
I mean, when I talked to Ryan last time, I think that we have like 7 or 8 people in the next 3 to 4 years. So it's not a significant number and compared to the size of Hinsdale, but currently I think we had 20 some people registered that go through Gateway. So it's a decent percentage of people that use our services. Does that
So
make sense?
21 though is a huge span of ages.
Yeah, that is a huge. I mean, we have kids that'll be in camp this summer that are 3, and we have adults who are in their 40s, 50s using like some of them are in softball leagues, some come to dances, things like that. So when it comes to just basic rec programming and services, we cover the gamut and ages. It's when you're looking for an actual day program,
Right,
like
but
that
those
program where
21, those 21 are an actual day program right now, correct? Is that?
no, I don't know the number for transition. I don't know how many people are in the high school transition
Okay,
program
that's
that
what
are
I wanted
Hinsdale
to know.
residents.
How
So
big is the
I can let you
transition?
know.
I feel like I should know that.
I think the more was just informative that this may come up again. There may be the parents that I've talked to weren't interested in really making a big show of it right now, just asking what else. And knowing that I've had a number of them coming forward and that there's potential for more, it may be something that we need to address in the future. That's more what this is about, is just saying that there could be a potential need for it. Our usage of people wanting aids for rec programming has climbed significantly in the last few years. So my first 3 years here, I had no requests for aids for our programs. In 2015, I had 8 requests in one summer for an aid. I had to hire new staff just to be recreation aides for the summer. And we probably get somewhere between 5 and 7 every summer since then. So the community, we're really seeing that integration of parents wanting their kids to be in mainstream as opposed to special rec only. We see them using both avenues, honestly. So you see them going to Gateway stuff, but you also see them saying, I want mainstream programming, I want an aid. So there's just a larger number of people that are using those kinds of services. So I think that's why it's coming up again. And I think it'll just continue to happen based on the conversations we've had. So I'm pointing it out because I asked Gateway to consider it, and not to say that we would ever leave Gateway, but it could come to the point where either Gateway adds something for our residents or we look to move to a different SRA. That's all.
And what you asked them to consider is just this additional
Yeah, and so you'll
transition
see-
program
Yep. So in
similar to like a C-SPAR.
Similar like
that
C-SPAR.
would be provided by Gateway.
Yep. So you don't have the April minutes yet because our May meeting hasn't happened yet. But you'll see in the April minutes we talked about it again, and we had charged Ryan from Gateway to give us the numbers. Like what would it look like for us to be able to actually fund a day program? Like what kind of staff costs are there? We would need to hire someone to do fundraising, that kind of stuff. What would our costs look like to be able to do that? And then how would that compare to what C-SPAR has? Or not even just C-SPAR, but NEDSRA or someone else that does those top of the line programs. What would that look like? So I think this is a conversation you'll just see keep coming up in the minutes going forward for the next few months at least, until we decide if it's something we can feasibly vote to try to bring forward. We also asked the other communities, like, do you think you have people that are interested in this? Are they just not speaking up because they know it's not an option? Or we asked them just kind of poll their communities. Elmhurst is the big one because they have the largest number of Gateway participants, and they don't have an option to go anywhere right now either. So what would they be contributing people to it? Or is it really just a standalone? Is Hinsdale really the only community that is seeing that need? Again, no action. So, I mean, it's
No,
just
I'm
food for
I
thought.
thought you
and
said that legally they cannot provide it past 21, but we're asking them to?
No. They can't provide the transition service past 21. We're not asking them to do the transition service. We're looking to see. They're two separate things. I mean, so the transition program and then day program are kind of a group, and then there's the rec program that we have, and that's open to all ages, that rec program, well, 3 and older. The transition program is basically a day program, but for kids that are for anywhere between like age 16 to 20 up to 21. So once they age out of that, there's nothing else for them to go into right now. So that's what we're talking about. Do we have the ability to provide that for them in a subsidized format instead of it being private pay, and have it be a program that's a good program that they would like to be part of. Yeah.
So I feel like I need a lot more education on this
I will
stuff.
tell you that SRAs are they're a whole new animal from recreation. And in my sitting down and having a conversation with Ryan helped a lot. I'm sure she would love to come present to us sometime if you guys would ever like to see just a kind of idea of what they do more than what we see here. I mean, it's just amazing the work that they do, and then how they do it, and all of the different, because there's so much legislation they have to also compete with, based on it. So if you're interested, I could have her come to one of our meetings too, just to chat about it. So
Well, I kind of feel like I need some education on this beforehand, but
Yep.
I'd love some numbers to know,
Yep.
how many people are we really talking about, what the
Right.
cost is. Are there grants that help cover this? Because it's a whole nother layer. I mean, this is not inexpensive.
No.
Right? And I know we're talking about people, so,
Right.
but I don't really have a grasp for what
yeah, and
that
that's what
is.
we have. With our April meeting, that was something we'd asked Ryan to bring to us. So she'll be in all the meetings coming forward. You'll see her bringing some of that, like the numbers and what it would look like, and
Okay.
how something like this could come to fruition. So we have asked for that information. You'll just
Okay.
kind of see it coming forward in the meetings going. But I knew we were looking at this, and I knew you were going to see me talking about day programs, and would like to at least know what it is. So when you see it coming forward, you'll know. Again, this is something that would have to go, our board approves. The community has to have the community meetings on it. The Gateway has, so there's a number of steps to actually ever get there, if we were to. But it's a conversation I think we need to have to
The
make sure.
budget item we have to build in somewhere, right?
Right,
I
right.
mean, that's
Yep. And right now, we don't charge a special recreation tax for the village. It's grouped in all of your other taxes. They pull that line item out and put it towards special recreation, but it's not a separate tax that we do. So like I think we talked about this before. Willowbrook does a separate tax where they have to have it appropriated every year. Elmhurst does it too. We just kind of group it in with all of our taxes. So, again, I don't.
the fund there, we just don't know if it's enough.
Right. So our fund right now is the exact amount of our contract, basically. So there's no additional monies that go to it. Whereas like Willowbrook and Elmhurst do a percentage, and they have leftover money that they can use for ADA improvements or things. So if you don't spend all your special rec money on aids or on your contract, you can use it then toward ADA improvements throughout your facilities or parks or wherever. So we don't currently do that. It's part of our regular funds. So, yeah. So there's different ways, different avenues. And again, part of the reasons some day programs are so successful in SRIs is because they fundraise. That would be a huge part of subsidizing it, would be the fundraising. And they hire someone that's their full-time job is to do the fundraising. So, yeah. Sorry, this meeting is taking much longer than I
No, that's
intended to. with all
okay.
the-
I need a lot more education on that personally.
Yeah. Again, and we can do that. As we come in the meetings, you'll see it and we can talk about it.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions on Gateway? No? All right, moving on to item 6A, monthly recreation staff report.
so I did provide you with a new updated report. We had, the headings on here were incorrect. They were listed as 21 and 20. So you updated them to 22 and 21. The lodge, I want to point out, there was a question from the village board last month about why the lodge numbers for the first few months look so low. Those are on par with what a normal year looks like. The reason last year was so high is because we had the transition program at KLM, and we had people renting the kitchen because of COVID. So we kind of saw those were outlying months last year. So we're seeing them on par with where they normally are. We're actually having a new air system handler put into the lodge this next week to help with some of the leaking we have in the ballroom. So we're seeing a lot of capital project money being put in. So you'll see some of that going into the expense line next month. But Chantel is our new lodge manager. So as you know, Hillary took over for Sammy. Hillary and Chantel are both made for the positions they're in. I can't tell you, Maggie could tell you, they are both so fantastic at the jobs. I know we were worried about losing Sammy, and on a personal level, we miss Sammy. But Hillary has a fantastic skill set that Sammy maybe didn't have, or maybe wasn't as strong in. Where Hillary is, she's had the experience managing hundreds of staff before. She's been a superintendent before. She just has a different management style. While Sammy was really good with our marketing and things like that, Hillary has a different skill set that's really doing well for us. And Chantel is just, if you ever have a chance to just pop into the lodge while she's over there, the littlest things, the littlest things that she's done over there. Like she reorganized the in the dining room, we have the bookshelves that with all the old knickknacks and things. She'd put them in by color, and it looks like an Instagram picture now. Like when you see it, I don't even know how to explain it, but she did. It was the most simple things that she's redone. She's redone the office with just little touches here and there. We're gonna start renting out the Zook Nook, and she is gonna send me photos. I'll forward out to you guys. But I gave her $1,000 and said, buy some furniture and make this look like some place that people want to rent. And I looked at it and I was like, can you come do my house for me? Like, it's so fantastic. I mean, it's a job she's made for. She worked at Lake Catherine in Palos, I believe is where it was. I think it's Palos. She was a similar role there, and she had worked previously as an event host for us. So she knew she liked the lodge. She wanted to be back there, and she's jumped in both feet. She loves it. She's having a fantastic time, and it shows. She has so many great ideas. So she and Hillary have built both. Again, I was really nervous with Sammy leaving about how hard this summer was going to be, and I mean, knock on wood, but so far everything's going really, really well. So the lodge is going with that. She's has a lot of new marketing ideas. We have an intern over there who's been doing their social media, which we're seeing increases in, and we're seeing increases in bookings over there. So this year, I think will be, again, cautiously optimistic, as Chris likes to remind me. But I think we'll see it being, last year was great. We ended at 180,000. I think that we'll probably see something similar this year as based on how our bookings are looking. And last year, where we were very nervous about how it would go, it's been our highest year in the past 6 years. So 2015 was the last time we were close to 180. So yeah, so the lodge is doing really well. If you have a chance to stop by there, I'd encourage it. That's all. Any questions about the lodge? Upcoming brochure. So the summer brochure is live. It's online. We are not seeing any decrease in registration with it all being, we're actually seeing things are filling up immediately. We're seeing just an intense amount of sales. I put it in here, 47,000 sales on the first day of registration. It's our highest sales we've ever had that I can find.
And that's online, right? So
And that
now it's
was
all,
most of it. I'd say it's
Yeah.
probably like 3/4 online,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, so 2/3 at
And
least.
that didn't include pool passes because that started 2 weeks after registration.
Right.
And that was resident-only registration
Right.
that first day.
Yeah, so we're seeing our programs full with numbers of wait lists. Our T-ball, for example, for spring this year, our T-ball used to only have 80 kids. We're up to 120 kids just in one season. So from fall to spring, we've gone up that many kids. I joke with Hinsdale Little League because I've had to take over all of their fields in the spring one night for 1 hour, and they're like, "You're killing us!" Like because they've kind of exploded too, and I'm like, I don't have enough fields. Because we used to do all of it at Robbins on those 3 little fields, but when you have 12 teams, there's no way to do that. So we have every baseball field in town on Wednesdays from 5:30 to 6:30 with T-ball right now, and it's just 5 weeks, but it's insane just how they are. Our lacrosse program's done really well. I think I've mentioned that before. We thought they were going to use one field at VEC 2 days a week, and they're now on all 3 fields. They're there 3 days a week. We've had to ask the high school for some space. We've got them out at Burns. We've got them at KLM. I mean, and there's the Hinsdale Herd, there's the boys and the girls. Both of them have taken off. So it's really exciting. I mean, that's really nice to see the growth there. Hopefully with this, we kind of said it's like this surge post-COVID, but hopefully we'll kind of stay up. We thought maybe we wouldn't see that this year come back after last year's, but it seems to be sticking around, and hopefully we're able to keep providing quality services where people will stay for it. So the summer brochure will come out July 25th online. Registrations start August 1st. You can see our list of special events coming up. We do have another pickleball kickoff. We're doing another pickleball tournament. And then our usual lunch on the lawn, movies in the park, unplug and play. We've been really lucky. We've gotten sponsors for every single one of our events, so just allows us to put money into other things. So it's been really nice. Yeah, we've got a full schedule of stuff for the summer. David will be running a lot of these smaller events. I'm sure he's excited to get into that. So. Field and park updates. So all of our fields, again, I mentioned earlier, our fields are at capacity. I have had to turn people away. And in some cases, when you see our revenue numbers for fields, you're going to say, but I thought you're at capacity. It's because we have our in-house programming that's now taking up more field space. So I have less field space to rent to people. VEC is the only baseball field that I really have time at to rent. And it's been every hour of every day of the week. I have people calling me saying, I need like 2 hours on a Saturday. And I'm from 2 in the afternoon until 10 at night, it's rented. There's no space to put people out there. It's again, a good problem to have, but our in-house programs have grown enough that you're seeing our outside rentals are down a little bit because we have so much in-house using it.
We had a lot of rain for.
We did have a lot of rain.
Did that affect our field?
Yeah, well, and again, we had most of our stuff at VEC now is lacrosse or other things that are out there, so we didn't have as much rentals. So it did to an extent. They're making up for it, and I was able to reschedule a lot of their time. So I don't think it's as impactful, really, to our numbers. Again, most of the space that we were canceling and closing fields for was for our own programming that we just rescheduled somewhere. So not as much as you might anticipate. And as I mentioned the herd in here again, because we haven't really met since February, I wanted to touch base on the ice rink. The rink opened January 7th, closed February 28th, and we had 47 open days in the season, which is the most we've had in the last 5 years.
I was about to ask what that
And we actually had
comparison
more
was.
open days than Clarendon Hills, I'll let you know, even on our non-flat surface.
Like usually it's more like, it's been a month, right?
Yeah,
I
we've
mean,
been lucky. We usually hit 28 to 30 days at most. Yeah, so we had a really nice season this year. John and his staff did a really good job making sure to have it was open. And yeah, and it's the earliest we've had it open in the last 5
And have
years.
people been out there? I don't drive by that side very often. Did it get good usage?
Every time I'd go by there would be people on it all day long. Yeah, and I mean, it was especially the weekends. I wasn't necessarily by it all the time, but I would hear from people how packed it was on the weekends.
And it was the one rink, right? We had the one
Just the one giant
The one
rink,
large,
yep.
and
Yep.
that worked out well for
That
games.
worked- that
and
seemed to
'cause
work
we
out
always
well.
have this debate about the one rink or two rinks.
Yep,
or-
we did have people asking if we could have 2 rinks again, 2 of the slightly smaller rinks, because they'd like to have one that's for ice skating and one for hockey, because it's
Right.
hard when you have hockey on the big one and ice skating. We've had a couple people ask for it, but we haven't, I mean, not a lot. There's not been a lot of pushback or anything about it. People seem to be pretty happy with what we had. So, and I even got comments from Clarendon Hills when I asked them about their open days. They said that you were open a full week. We were open a full week before they were. So, yeah. John, I give all the credit to John and his staff. So
Yeah, please
they did.
express our thanks to them.
Yeah.
That was great.
So park bathrooms have been prepped and open since April 1st. VEC had its floors resurfaced, which means Brook will be the last floors to be resurfaced next year. So all of our bathrooms are done. Just this past weekend, I mentioned vandalism at KLM. We had someone kick in the partitions again, which I don't remember, but last year we had it happen too. They're the partitions that sit between like the urinals and bathrooms, and it's a kick because there's actually footprints on the partitions, but they've kicked them enough times that they've actually ripped them from the walls. So we're seeing that slight uptick in vandalism again. We had another Robbins Park had some issues over the weekend too. No damage to facilities, but there was like trash and glass everywhere, enough that we had to call in like a third party to clean the parking lot Sunday morning. So we are just seeing that uptick again, and I've been reminding people, if you
That was just this past weekend?
just both of them were this past weekend. Yep. It was right after I think the kitchen walk was this past Friday,
Yeah.
because one of the houses nearby had been on the kitchen walk, and whoever vandalized the area took recycling bins full of wine bottles and just shattered them all over the parking lot. And so we had on Mother's Day at 7:00, I was getting a call from the PD being like, what do we do? And Joe John ended up having public service staff come out that morning to help clean it up. So. So we are, again, this is that time of year where we usually see it happening anyway. So we're just the police are keeping an eye on it. We're going to just try to make sure the public is aware and keep an eye on it too. So, We have 3 Eagle Scout candidate projects currently in the works. They're different stages. They're not moving as quickly as maybe we thought they were going to, but one is Eleanor's Park, the flower bed, the big circle flower bed that sits by the knee wall. They're going to be redoing all of the landscaping in that area. Another is the gazebo at Arrett Park and the butterfly garden. We have a young man who's going to come in and re-roof the gazebo, stain, paint, whatever the gazebo, and then kind of touch up the butterfly garden. And then a third one who is looking to add additional community garden beds over at Pierce Park. So we did 6 last year. They all rented out. It went well. We're in their raised garden beds, so we're looking to do 6 more. And John is looking for seasonal and full-time public service employees. So I think we have 1 or 2 positions full-time, and I think 3 more still seasonal. So he is short-staffed right now. So if you know anyone who's looking for, it starts at $15 an hour for seasonal. And then the full-time, obviously, it's a full-time salary with
Like
with
16 and
benefits.
up in age? Like, what's the
I
age?
think they try to aim for 18.
18 and
They may be a little flexible seasonal, but 18 and up for full-time. And then they prefer 18 and up even for seasonal, but I think they may be a little flexible with it. So I think I sent you guys all the pictures of Irma Butler Tot Lot. It is beautiful and it's open and everyone's been really excited. We've been on a number of like the local kids lists and things like that, talking about how great it is, and we're getting a lot of activity and traction with that. Our next playground is going to be Burns Field in 2023, and then Robbins in 25, Dietz in 2026. The only thing that I would caution, and this is going to come up with our capital planning in the next month, so the board hasn't really looked at this or any of the other village staff yet, but in pricing out the volatility of the new prices and just availability of things, we are seeing almost double the cost for a playground now from what we had previously. So that'll be something to just discuss as it comes forward with capital. Something that may have been a $300,000 project, now we're looking at closer to $600,000. So we would like to continue going forward with all of our playgrounds having a more ADA accessible surface like the turf out at Irma Butler, and we'd like to be able to incorporate some of those pieces still into all of our playgrounds too. So those do factor into the cost. They are, to turf a surface versus just leaving it at mulch is going to be more expensive, but I think it's an investment that would be smart for our community to continue doing. So we'll see. And you never
Let's see,
know.
'cause
I mean,
that's a huge increase.
it is
That's-
a
yeah.
huge increase, but we're seeing that across the board with everything. So we have a master plan listed for 2024. So just a master plan for all of the village parks that was quoted at $50,000 a year ago, and now it's being quoted at $150,000. So everything we're seeing increase across the board. We can't even get vehicles. We can't get vehicles replaced because they're not making them. So we're just seeing increases and
So is
delays on
this
everything.
schedule, though, is the 25 years recommended replacement schedule that we're on?
This is this is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have
And
we actually looked at, like, is Burns Field falling apart? Like, can we push it back?
Yep. So Burns, we actually every year we put it out. Originally, when we put this plan out, I put it in place based on the year they were installed and then the type of playground. So there's a community playground and then there's a neighborhood playground. And community playgrounds are playgrounds like Robbins, Burns, VEC, KLM, where people come there for other things outside of just the playground. So you see people coming for destination things. The others are neighborhood, like Malin and Dietz. Those are neighborhood parks where really you don't see people going there unless they live in the neighborhood. So when we prioritized it saying, here are community playgrounds, they get kind of like an extra point. They get moved up a little bit because they're more heavily used. And if it was installed in 2002, like Burns was, and it's a community playground, it moves to the top of the list. However, if we were to, when we do our annual playground inspections, if it really doesn't look like it's in bad condition, if it really can be, we've been altering that. So originally Robbins was in line ahead of Burns, but Burns needs, I think John George would tell you, and that's your closest park too, right?
Yes.
Burns is in need of replacement. It's not,
It's seen better days.
yeah, it's
been there in years. We used to go there.
Yeah, it's really definitely on the end of its life cycle. It needs to be done next. So we reevaluate John and I have actually the last 2 weeks we do 3 parks a day. We go out. Everything we can look on the capital regular budget, make notes on it, and Burns really is
I just
the
want to be
playground
really
it needs to be.
mindful of our our taxpayers
Yep.
and making sure we're spending that money wisely.
Yep.
Because
No, definitely.
if it means that we have to wait a year or two, and it's still usable, I
Yeah.
guess that's a lot if it's doubled. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
and
a huge
again,
amount of money.
none of that's approved yet. It'll go to the Capitol, the board will debate it, it'll go to the committee of the whole, that'll all kind of go through, and as we're going through, I'll keep you updated on it, but they're definitely, it hasn't approved yet. I mean, it's been in the budget, but knowing that it's going to change, I'm sure there's gonna be a number of conversations about how we spend that money. As I've cautioned before, though, prior to me taking over this role, there was no replacement plan for playgrounds.
Right,
And
right.
I get concerned that if we don't keep them on a regular schedule of replacement, we're gonna end up with like issues like we have at the pool where it's so far down the road that what options do we have now? So I wanna make sure that we're being mindful of that. We're putting one in place for tennis courts and basketball courts right now too, because there's no real replacement plan for those either, or for even just doing color coding and patch repairs and things like that. So that's new this year too. You'll see
But we have the
something.
tennis courts, they were all on a.
We did. They were all
repaving.
on it, but
Yeah.
there was nothing established after that. We didn't
Okay,
have anything
okay.
set up. So there's something formal that we're putting, John
Okay,
and I are putting
yep.
in place now for
Yep, I
those
follow that.
replacements. So again,
Heather, real quick question about the color scheme on that
Yep.
playground. Have you gotten feedback on that?
people love it. Yes, we've gotten
It was
people.
so interesting because I was told, they're like, you're on the park committee? So people told me they really miss the primary colors.
Oh, okay.
So I was
Everyone that
just
I've talked to tells
curious.
me how much they love it. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm wondering maybe how they'll feel as we get into summer where there's more leaves on the trees, things like that.
We'll
It'll
see.
be interesting.
Because are we planning to make them all the same?
We were trying to stick with similar color schemes. Yeah.
Because I
for-
have to, so I would just love to revisit that again because I think
Okay.
there was something unique about having different parks to go to. I mean,
Yeah.
thank
We can-
goodness we're
we can
past
do
that
that.
age. But there was something about, like there used to be the pirate ship to go to and like there were
Oh, yeah.
different reasons why you went to different playgrounds.
Yep.
And part of it is that they look a little bit different.
Yep.
So you feel like you're actually at a different place.
You can
So-
do that. I mean, if you decide you like the colors and you want to stick with it, you can still make different attractions at all the places too. So,
Okay.
yep, we can definitely consider that. And then the pool. So pool passes, you'll see the reporting here. In the new report, I added in the third year. So you have 2019, which was our last normal season, as we're calling it. But you will remember that last year we did sell pool passes. They went on sale a little bit later than usual. So we're still seeing, again, we're calling that COVID comeback. We're still seeing people out wanting to be passes. We're over last year's pass sales, we're 162% over that. But we're still 10,000 over where we were in 2019 too, at the same time period. So it seems to be going well. Our programs are filling, our dive program, our water polo, our town team. We're seeing good registration for all of those things. Any questions
All
on the
right,
staff
so our
report?
resident is down a little bit. I mean, not down, but it's not quite where it was in 2019, is that right? Am I looking at
Yeah,
that correctly?
and-
47,000 versus 52,000? That's the
Yeah,
number I
over
wanted to take a look at.
2019, yes.
Okay. Our neighborly, yes, I know we've made a huge push in
Yep.
neighborly
And our
marketing,
non-residents are up too.
and our non-residents are up too.
But, and again, this is the trend we're seeing, and when you'll see platform tennis in here too, while they're seeing an increase, they're seeing a growth in people participating. It's not necessarily resident participation you're seeing that growth in.
Quick question.
But
just-
I would anticipate our resident numbers to go. We had a lot of last minute people that weren't included in this number yet, so.
Okay. And the pool is in good shape? All the construction and the,
Yeah, they're out
The
there
deck-
painting. They're painting right now. That should hopefully be finished this week. Then it really just comes to curing and filling. So
are we on schedule for Memorial Day
Um,
opening?
yeah, we have a tight timeline, but it's on schedule. If something changes, we would let everyone know. But as of right now, we're on schedule. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
this rain with the spring did make things tighter than we were maybe hoping for. But we're still planning to be open that weekend.
Okay. Okay. And I know we talked about pickleball briefly. Any issues? Have we had complaints, issues?
I'm sorry, say that
fights
again?
At the pickleball courts?
No, I haven't had any complaints yet. We have a lot of people signing up for things. We have a new whiteboard that we're having installed out there. That whiteboard that we talked about previously, it just wasn't put up over the winter, so that'll be out there. So we'll see how that goes with everyone.
Okay, so we haven't really implemented this whole new plan yet.
No, it's John has it. He just needs to put it. We just need to have it
Okay.
put it up out there.
That's
So
what
we'll
I
see
was
how
curious
as things kind of kick off this month and into next month. We'll see how it really goes. But I haven't had any complaints since last October, maybe.
Okay.
So.
Okay. I've heard a lot of people, pickleball is like the word about town. it
We're getting. I
seems.
say we're getting a lot of registrations, a lot of questions about it. So.
Okay. Any new business?
No new business.
Correspondence?
No correspondence.
Well, we had our correspondence.
Well,
Maggie
sure,
forwarded
yeah.
to us already.
No additional correspondence.
Okay, other business, Hinsdale Platform Tennis Association.
So they are requesting to add 2 additional courts, and you can see from the little map we drew here where those courts would go. I know that sort of looks like they overlap the tree, but John has been out there and determined they're not going to impact any of the trees with the additional courts. So they would go on those, about those positions. This would be funded through the capital fund that was established as part of the HPTA license agreement, so it would be no money that the village is paying. Basically, HPTA is paying all of that money themselves to do it. They would do the work. We would permit it, we would bid it, we would permit it and oversee the project, but HPTA would be paying for the addition of it. They're asking this basically because they've seen such significant growth in their members, in their membership. So if you look at their change in membership, they are seeing growth. Most of it is coming in non-residents. I know I've had conversations with them talking about how do we get more residents to be part of it, but they are seeing increase in residents, but it's significantly non-residents that are using it. But they're still paying a fee.
Okay, all the numbers here look like the residents are growing faster than the
Does- yeah.
non-residents.
It
The
says-
residents are growing,
increasing
but
at
they're
a
not
faster rate.
they're not increasing at the same rate as non-residents. That's what I've been told by HPTA, is that they're still seeing the increase, but it's not. The number of non-residents still exceeds the number of residents. They're still non-resident heavy.
Okay, so the rate is increasing faster
Yes.
for residents, but the total number is still larger of
It's
non-residents.
still larger,
Is that
right.
the installed base?
Yes. Staff, this went informally to out to the village board, and they were comfortable with it, with us discussing it and then kind of having something done from here. So they're really just waiting for Parks and Rec to say, yes, we're okay with the idea. We're fine with adding 2 additional courts. It'll then, from here, it would go to the board to discuss. It'll go to Plan Commission to talk about the actual, they'll have to get all their drawings and designs and permits and stuff together. It'll go to zoning. So there are a number of other commissions and the board that'll have to approve through all this. They would just like sign off from Parks and Rec and whether you're comfortable with moving forward with the idea of adding 2 more courts.
And you said it won't require removing any mature trees?
No, it won't. We won't have to touch any of the trees. No. Mm-mm. And that the beautiful hut out there can really hold more people. I mean, that's part of it too. They're seeing, again, the growth in the program. The hut's a draw for people too. So right now, the 6 courts here plus the 2 at Burns, they're not able to meet the demand that they need. And I know, Alice, the women's program grew significantly, is my understanding.
Tremendously. Yeah, no, I spoke to Marty a couple of weeks ago. Marty Brennan, he's now the ex-president,
Right.
but he's the one kind of driving this program right here, or this expansion. And yeah, the growth has been phenomenal. I mean, they just don't have an evening where the courts are even open. I mean, they have league matches, and then they have expanded the women's program a lot on the weekends and on a couple of evenings. So they're really bringing in like the working women as well. It just used to be a daytime during the week program. It has grown, and they're talking about their junior program and the families out there. And again, I don't know if COVID just kind of created a huge awareness. Everyone wanted to get outdoors, but they are going to, their request is to approve these without a dime of our money,
Right.
of village money. Like, they are self-funding this completely. They just need the approval for the courts to be built on that space. And I just think it's so ironic that is, I remember walking down there with Heather to look at that dog park when we originally were looking at the fenced in, and that line was right there, and looking at those courts going, gosh, those courts are really close. And what happens if there are more courts? And now there are more courts right towards that. So, you know,
Exactly.
fate.
The underutilized
sometimes.
portion. of
Yes, the
park.
underutilized portion, exactly. So, and I highly recommend, if you haven't seen the hut yet, it's beautiful. And so that is also, I think, encouraging people to join.
Yeah.
I think it's great that the demand is there, so
Yep.
I think we ought to
Right.
service that.
Questions, issues? No? Do we just need to make a motion to
I don't
recommend
even need
this?
a motion. I mean, it's very informal, just as, unless you have anyone that has any reason not to move forward with it, we'll share with them that
Oh,
we're
I think it's
comfortable to
fantastic.
going
If they're
forward.
self-funding, I think that's fantastic.
Okay.
Yep. No, I think it's, gosh, after years of negotiating, we
Yeah,
have
and
a
I
really
honestly,
successful program.
With the
I
height,
love
with
it.
the height being improved and then in addition of more courts, I think that they're adding amenities that maybe would bring more residents in. So, yeah.
Yep. And they've really, I know they've had turnover on their board. They have
Right.
new people on their board, and I think it's wonderful.
Yep.
Like, it's growing, it's expanding,
Yep.
they're
And
doing
I
a
still
great
have pretty
job.
regular conversations with at least Mark Schaub, occasionally Rick. So, I mean, they're good about keeping in contact and working together. I mean, it's a really nice program to be able to
Often
work
thought
with.
about
so.
their access code, you know, it's on their phone, the
Yep.
lock to get in and out of that door, and I don't know if that's something that we could do with the fence at KLM for those residents, or if the keypad is better,
The only issue is that theirs is based, it's their wireless access, so I don't know if we have anywhere that would, close enough that we can get wireless
wireless
access for
access
that
for
gate.
that,
That
okay.
would be the
It just
only
seemed
issue.
like
I
it
think
was such
we're
an
just looking at one of those
inexpensive-
gates where it has a
Okay.
keypad on it, where they would just
Okay.
have to know that number.
Yep.
What they did was they put a bike lock out there initially, which was a code that anyone in the community had. But the woman that lives right there actually shared a video where she watched a resident in the community just go out, take the code off, and
And
threw
you
the
threw
bike
it,
lock
lock.
off into the. So it needs to be something that someone can't remove. So that's what it just means we have to replace the gate panel. So again, we're kind of at the mercy of the supply chain at this point of getting something like that in. So I not to necessarily, we have to rehash that, but I think it's important to note that those are our residents, and those are the people that live there do have, I know that they chose to live there and everything, but we do still need to be considerate of the fact that it's their property, it's their home, and they want to be able to enjoy it without feeling like it's being intruded on. So that's why I think we're hopefully coming to a happy medium with what we're putting in place there. So,
Well, I think it's great. Let's, platform tennis, I'm all for it. I think that's a great.
we don't have a June meeting scheduled, but we do have our next meeting July 19th.
And is there a reason why it's the 19th? Because usually it's the second Tuesday and it's the 12th?
Because the village board meets only one time in the summer, so they always shift us back one week in July. So we're always the third Tuesday in July.
Okay.
Because the village board meets on the second Tuesday of each month
Okay,
in the summer.
Okay, so just remind me real quick now, when is our first read and second read going to be of this dog park ordinance change with the village?
It'll go to the June meeting for the board. Sorry, let me tell you, I think it's June.
So June is, when do they meet? June?
June 14th.
Okay,
And then it would be finally approved on July 12th. But again, if they don't have any issues at the June 14th meeting and it gets moved to the consent agenda, we can start getting things out there, just knowing that that it's going to be approved at the next meeting.
yeah, it's
So,
just, I'd love to pull those summer hours in,
Yeah.
instead of
Yep.
having it be that 7 to 10 PM. I'd
But
love
again,
to-
that's where I think I just tell people this is our intent and we're going to be flexible with those hours
Right,
now.
okay.
So, yeah.
Okay,
So July 19th, if anyone is interested in helping with the parade, it is going to be
So
on
what's
July
hap-
4th again
it's
this year.
shorter, right? Because Garfield's under construction?
Slightly shorter. It's like 2 blocks shorter. It's not a whole lot shorter.
Oh, because Memorial Day parade is much shorter. I've heard.
They might be, yeah. I think that's
Because
the
they're
American
busing
Legion.
the band
Yeah.
to the middle school to
Yeah.
start, like,
Ours,
instead of
we-
walking.
The new route that we have is still goes down through the central business district, still down Grant like it always has. But it's instead of coming down Garfield, it's going to extend east on Park or east on First. So it'll start like at our backloaded streets will be like Oak and remember all the names, Park. Will be staging streets. And Park, it'll actually start at Park and First and travel through the downtown and then down Grant.
Oh,
It's
instead
about
of
2
going
blocks
Park.
shorter.
Oh, Park
Yeah,
first. Okay.
we
so
just
L-shaped instead of U-shaped.
yeah,
this
it's just an
year.
L and U. We just didn't have anywhere else that the business district really wanted to make sure people still went through the downtown area, and there wasn't really anywhere else that provided enough streets near each other for staging and that really worked outside of just doing that L shape. So I'll tell you, the people that live on the east side of Garfield are really excited to be hosting the parade this year. So that in that Robbins district there. So and
Garfield there?
the east of Garfield. So those streets east of Garfield
Oh, like Park.
that
Oh,
are
yeah,
going to have
Park
like
and
Park
Safford.
and all those
Yeah,
are
yeah,
really excited to have the parade route on their house on the parade route this year. So and then next year it'll go back to the old route. And just as next year's our Heather knows, but next year's our 150th anniversary for the Village of Hinsdale, and as Heather's going to be part of that commission where we're planning. So
Did they pick the logo? I know,
I
we
don't
voted
know,
on the
we have a
logo.
meeting this week.
Oh, you have a
we
meeting this
did.
week?
A logo was identified, which we'll let everyone know at the meeting next week. There was a main logo. I'm curious which ones you guys voted for.
I voted.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I can't remember what I
I
voted for.
just
It's been so
so
long.
I designed all of them. So I had a
You did?
preference. I did. I had a preference in my
reasons for,
favorite one, and it did not win. But I did have, yeah. But I do know that there was I enjoyed seeing what people would vote for. I tried to go like very classic to more modern and everything in
Was
between.
there a
See where we
clear
went.
winner? Or was it
There was
pretty close?
because we asked to vote for two, but there was one that had like 27 or 29 votes, and it was much higher. The next closest was like 18, I think.
Wait, you
so there
only
was
had 27 or, oh, because it was just village.
it was village just
It was just
all
commissioners.
village commissioners. Yep.
Got it.
Yep. So
Yeah.
Wow, that one
yeah.
was really
So
carries
we're
weight.
working on we're working on a press release for it, and it'll kind of go out. But the commission will learn about it next week. The committee for it will learn about it. So we have
thank
some
you for
really fun
sharing that,
ideas
Heather.
for Parks and Rec. So this is Maggie's wheelhouse. She's really excited about it. So, she wrote the book on Westmont, so she's really excited about the history of stuff.
I,
And
I rolled straight from 2021 doing Westmont's 100th anniversary to doing Hinsdale's 150th next year.
yeah, it's really it's exciting. So we have
Background.
yeah.
And welcome to our intern, so
Yes.
thank you. Hope you have a great summer here.
Our meetings aren't normally this long, David. It's just
Yeah,
we
this
hadn't
is
met
just long,
we hadn't
my
met in a
word.
while. So
Okay, can I have any other questions? Are we ready to adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Yep.
Thank you so much for your time and all your efforts.